question for you. Why are there multiple political parties in the United States, or for that matter anywhere? Why are there multiple parties just about everywhere you go in the world in terms of politics? Why is that true? Seems like a kind of a simple question, I would think. It's because those people represent different individuals, different kinds of people with different mindsets, different viewpoints, different worldviews, so forth, right? And that's why I want to talk today about the idea of bipartisanship on the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt. Today is Wednesday, the 30th of June of 2021. That means tomorrow, of course, will be the 1st of July, for those of you that are keeping count. I'm your host. If I didn't say so, I'm Kurt. Glad to have you aboard today, whether on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube. There I go with aboard again, and we're just going to have to deal with that. And again, today we're going to talk about the subject of bipartisanship, and as usual, I'm going to take a little second here to read my notes to give you an idea what I'm talking about. And I'm sure you've already come to some conclusion about it just by what I've said to this point. Is anybody really unclear on why we have multiple political parties in the United States? And as I say, that's literally a worldwide phenomenon as far as I'm aware, with certain exceptions. I'm just wondering, do you want your sports team to cooperate with the opposing team? The reason those political parties exist is that they represent people with differing ideals, opinions, and viewpoints. You can argue that what should happen is a spirit of bipartisanship and cooperation. You'll forgive me if I strongly disagree. If I want people to represent me, they will always disagree with others. And I don't mean everybody and on everything, but they will disagree with others. That's one thing that's going to happen. That's not an accident. The idea that some of each party is in Congress is indicative of the fact that people seek someone to keep radical or extreme ideas from being acted on. Is this strictly for leftists or people on the right? Definitely not. Okay, done with my notes, and I think, come on, this is just not really all that complicated. If you're a Democrat and you have no representation in Congress, what hope is there of you getting anything that you want to see done? On the other hand, if I'm a Republican and you're a Democrat, and I believe that a lot of your ideas, particularly the more radical ones, are not very intelligent, very clever, or things that I'd like to see implemented, what makes you think that I'm going to help to cause people to come into office who are not going to be counter to your narrative? What would make you think that? It's already supposed to be true that Congress is bicameral, and that the intent of that was to make it so that the people were represented by the House of Representatives and the states were represented by the Senate. Now, it turns out these days that in both instances, technically the people are represented and the states are no longer so. And there was an amendment, I forget which one, that changed it so that there was a popular election for senators, and that made it so that the states had no ability to appoint people that they thought would be looking out after their best interests. But the point of what they were doing was to have things typically work like this. Something came into the House of Representatives, people voted on it, thought it was a grand idea, it made its way to the Senate, and the senators said, "Oh, wait a minute, Hoss, that's really not something that we think should happen," and it went there to die. Now, I hear a lot of people talking about how they think we ought to have cooperation in the houses of Congress. And I think that there are a lot of people out there who believe the same thing, where people are not working together in what they term a bipartisan fashion. Which, first of all, even though there are two parties, I don't consider that there are only two kinds of people in Congress. I consider that there are people like Rand Paul and his dad, Ron, who are libertarian, and they ran as Republicans because they couldn't get in under anything else. They made their way in. They did that job, right? They got heard. They got people looking at them and saying, yeah, this is somebody that I want to be here. Now, it happens that Rand Paul's poll is very weak by comparison because he's got almost nobody who typically is willing to align themselves with him. On certain things, I think he has almost unanimous support on what he's doing, by the way. On other things, I think almost nobody wants to support what he's asking for, what he's doing, and so forth. And this is an important thing to realize. But here's the thing. I don't want Republican right-leaning individuals to be cooperating with the left. Not on nothing. I'm not saying they shouldn't ever cooperate on anything. But they should cooperate with them on things with which their constituents will agree. Typically. That's typically the things that they should be cooperating with them on. And oh, by the way, that's the same for the left. And what should happen as a result is you should get some very middle-of-the-road things happening, right? Why? Well, because the people on the right are going to say, no, I'm not going to do socialism. No, I'm not going to do universal basic income. No, I'm not going to do only taxing the rich, or confiscatory activity against the rich or whatever. They're not going to agree with that, and the folks on the Democratic side are going to say, no, I'm not going to allow for an unregulated environment where business is concerned. No, I'm not going to make it so that there's no safety net at all, in existence in the United States, so that when people find themselves in bad straits, they're not taken care of. Now, I happen to disagree with the Democrats on that. I think there should be a safety net, but it ought to be private. And I think that it would be managed much better if it were private. And I think that people would put up with a whole lot less hooey if that happened. You'll forgive me, I would use more stricter, sterner words if I was prone to do that, and particularly in my videos. I try not to do it at all. Anyway, the point I'm getting at here is that if you've got a bunch of people over here and they want to enact radical stuff, okay, let's say this is the right. My right hand makes sense. Okay, my right hand is up for those of you on the podcast. And then you've got a bunch of people over here who want to enact radical things on the left. Should either of those sets of things really get enacted most of the time? The answer to that is no. No, they shouldn't. We should typically be doing things that are agreeable to everybody. And the funny thing is, if you have the people on the extreme right and the people on the extreme left unable to get their stuff through, hey, guess what? What that means is the stuff that is going to make its way through is going to be the stuff that the people in the center are going to like more. Maybe not completely like, but are more likely to like. When one side caves to what the other side says, what you end up with is an unholy mess, which, by the way, is where we are right now, because the right has been consistently caving to what the left has been asking for. No, wrong, stop. Now, I'm not telling people on the left, you should stop believing in your leftist ideologies. Personally, I think you're wrong, but what I believe doesn't really matter, because you're going to hold with what you hold, and I'm not going to tell you should stop that. That's not really a thing for me to do. But the point I'm making is simple. The point I'm making is just as simple as can be. If the folks on the right try to pass things, and the folks on the left can stop them from doing so, and the things that the folks on the right are trying to pass are radical things, fine. Fine. Even if I might agree with some of the more radical things on the right, I can still hold with the idea that the people are being better represented in that situation. The same applies in reverse. If the folks on the left are trying to implement radical policies and the folks on the right go, no, not having that, then guess what? That's pretty much how the system was designed to work, as far as I can tell. As I say, it's the same thing as the bicameral house, where the states were supposed to be represented and they could smash down the things that the people, the representatives of the people put out there that really probably were not things that should ever get enacted. Things would go to die, as it were. Not everything. But I'm not a great believer in tons of legislation being passed, and I'm not a great believer in radical policies on either side of the aisle being pushed. And the result is, in my mind, bipartisan or multi-partisan activity is bad most of the time, unless it's on stuff that everybody can look at and really truly agree with, or more importantly, believe their constituents would believe it. All right, I'm basically out of time, so I need to go ahead and wrap up. This is the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. Today is Wednesday, the 30th of June of 2021. That means tomorrow will be Thursday, yes, the 1st of July of 2021. Thank you for everybody who's been here on Rumble and the podcast on YouTube. Remember, Rumble is my preferred platform. Remember also that you can give me a positive or negative Rumble on Rumble, and you can give me a like or a dislike On Facebook, that's a thumbs up or a thumbs down, I think, in their world. Maybe the Boxing Glove and Rumble. Remember also that you can comment on whatever I say, and you can tell me I'm all wet. You can tell me you agree with me. You can tell me you disagree with me and why. And maybe you'll even change my mind in what you're doing. All right, I need to go ahead and wrap up, so I'm going to do that as I say. Hope you're having a good day today. We are finally at that middle of the week day. My son's last day of school for this school year, and that's sort of a good thing, but he'll probably be pretty bored in the course of time. Again, hope things are going well for you. Hope you're doing well, and hopefully we will see you again on Thursday's edition of the Daily Summation. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Wednesday, June 30th of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S. .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.